Okay, so let's see, we got a couple more people. Let's see.
I think you can see my screen, right, Peggy?
Yes. Okay. Okay, so give those people a second to get in here. And okay, so I'm ready to go. I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start talking.
Sure, yeah, whenever. No.
Okay. My name's Peggy Seivert. I'm the director at Sola Contemporary. And so there's a little, you can scroll up, Hagop, because it's got the.
Let's just tell as high as and go.
Well, no, there's another slide, right? Yeah. So, I'm introducing myself.
You mean scroll down? Okay, sorry,
yeah.
go.
Okay, and then the next slide has a little bit about Sola Contemporary.
There you go. Sorry.
So our Sola Contemporary is a nonprofit artist-run organization serving as a cornerstone for cultural and artistic innovation in South Los Angeles. If you haven't been there, you should get over and visit us sometime. Our goal is to advocate for change by empowering people from diverse backgrounds and to take risks in endeavors and to
go all the way in the corner.
Explore
no.
the intersection of art, culture, society, and politics. And it's a great place to experience contemporary art. So our moderator today is Hagop Najarian, and he is an artist. I would say he's an artist, absolutely 100%, and a professor, and that's the greatest combination. And so he's a working artist at Cerritos College. He's got tenure. He's been there for 20 years or so, and is very active. He's got his BFA in drawing and painting from Cal State Long Beach and graduate degree from Tyler School of Art, which I guess is in Philadelphia and Italy, a year in Italy. And he curates, maybe curate for Sola sometime ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and a founding member of Museum Adjacent, a locally run artists collective. I think it's connected with the Torrance Art Museum.
Yeah, but that's co-founding. 10 of us built it.
Co-founding. I think Kim. Yeah,
Kim is one of them too. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and scroll through the images that are in the show, and I'll give you a little bit about each artist as we go through their work. So Kim Marra, she's got her BFA in painting from SUNY, State University of New York. And
Thank you. Have a good day.
Shelly, put yourself on mute, please.
So in 2019, Kim helped co-found the artist collective Museum Adjacent, I guess with Hagop, and her bold geometric oil paintings, which you can scroll on to show us her paintings, collage elements from her present surroundings and childhood homes, finding visual overlap in the memories and feelings of the places that she recalls. By living in the realm between abstraction and representation, the shapes and colors housed within each composition interact to elicit the illusion of space in an abstract reality. So her work is in the tactility because of its visual tactility, not as actual. So that's Kim. And next is Charity. Charity Malin's current body of work consists of a series of household abstractions which combine geometry, household objects, textiles, clothing, and tools. Light and shadow play an important role as the shadow lines become an integral part of the final composition. And Malin's art has been described as a feminine perspective on minimalism. The soft, humble materials she uses in her work bring a fresh take to this art form, which has traditionally been explored with hard industrial surfaces. So that's Charity. Really great to see in person because it's very dimensional and unexpected. Okay, well, they're all great to see in person. It's a great show. Carmen Mardonez, Chilean artist. Carmen Mardonez has been living in Los Angeles since 2017. Mardonez uses upcycled textiles to radically reimagine the intimate spaces of memory, dreams, and discovery, and explores the deconstruction of traditional embroidery to allow for less pattern, more experimental techniques where color and relief are more important than the minimalist and practical domestic use. Yeah. And before we get to Sarah, I'll mention Carmen and Kim were this was an award show from a previous juried show that they were selected by Stephen Wong of the Municipal Art Gallery as
Oh, wow.
were selected out of that show. And then Charity was awarded her show from Holly Jerger, the curator of an art, craft, and design show we had. And Holly is the curator at Craft Contemporary. So congratulations to them. And then Sarah, this was a separately curated solo show for her. So, so Sarah Arnold, as a landscape painter from Southern California, Sarah Arnold paints neighborhoods that were developed in the 20s and 30s. She began this work in Echo Park and went on to depict other rapidly disappearing swaths of diverse California bungalows, Spanish-style houses, and iconic Los Angeles apartments. These areas are often replaced with contemporary commercial buildings without consideration for aesthetic proportion or their surrounding communities. So Arnold captures these vanishing places with thick gestural brushstrokes that evoke their color, rhythm, and patterns, frozen in light and texture as a captured moment in time. So you kind of get lost between the brush strokes and what you're actually looking at, the physical landscapes. So those are our artists. So I'll turn it over to Hagop to lead this talk.
Sure. Shall I leave the images up while I'm talking, or I mean, do people need to see me? I don't know. I don't think so. But
yeah, but I mean, will the artists show when they talk too, right?
they can share their screens if they like. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. What
Yeah.
the artists involved? Should I stop sharing and then you all share your own thing, or
I didn't prepare like.
Yeah, no one's prepared for that. I mean, you can see a small version of me, but
Yeah.
well, you know what? Let me say a few words and then I'll come back to images specific. So thank you, everyone. I mean, I was floored when I saw the show. It's a beautiful show, and I don't think I'd seen Peggy in a while, so it was very kind. She says, "Hey, we want to do this public Zoom. Do you mind talking?" And I'm like, "Cool, yeah." I mean, I really know Kim Marra's work for the last few years, and I've known Sarah Arnold since the 80s, so that was a kind of weird connect. But then, you know, I've seen Carmen's work in Charity, so it all clicked. You know, I was taken away. Some of the work pushes out of the wall, and then when you go to like Kim's paintings, they push into the wall. So besides the tactility of the paintings or the, you know, collages and assemblages, it's a physically beautiful space to walk in. But then when you get to like paintings, you go into the wall, right? Or even like Sarah's, they take you into atmosphere. So I think on a visceral level, on an emotional level, it was a powerful show. Particularly the pillows and the fabrics that Carmen uses are very, you can't escape them, and the fields of them, right? And I like Kim's a lot because you get lost, but as a painter, you're just stuck on a quarter of like a textured palette knife glaze or something, right? And then you get the minimal version of Charity, and then back to painting with Sarah. So I thought it was a very impressive show. We put together some questions, so I don't know if you, Peggy, have yours. Peggy had some questions on the formal level of the paintings and sculptures and installations, but she asked me to write a question, and actually the only one I thought of was most artists have gone through a lot of mental, downshifting and figuring out their lives through COVID. So I think it's admirable that painters, sculptors, artists can keep making work through this stressful time. So kind of under the umbrella, I would propose the idea of like, what sustained your practice, to the artists, or if it's become frustrating and you've had to shut down and change gears for practical space or headspace in your work. I know that's a lot I said, but those are the kind of key things I would focus on. Peggy, I don't know. And I think it's an open conversation. I want all the artists to feel free to jump in at any time, talk about their work, and I can pull up images. So, you guys tell me.
Okay, well, do you want to ask that question, or do you want me to ask some of the other questions?
Well, why don't you ask yours? Because I think mine is more of a general overview of.
Okay, we'll get to it, I think. Okay.
Sure.
So all four artists incorporate the sense of touch or tactility in their work, and whether it be visual or actual, in different ways. So just to each one of the artists, how important is this sense of touch to your work? And how is it functioning in a visual sense to express your ideas? So
I'll start. So I think for me, a sense of touch is really important. And my paintings are really about space, and I use these textures that I and everyone kind of interact with on an everyday basis. So I like to paint like representations of wood grain and concrete. And for me, I think these textures are kind of an entry point for the viewer, because you can attach your own experiences with these kind of surfaces and think about your own environments and your own memories. So yeah, I feel like when you see these things, you want to touch them, you connect your own experience, and that's how the tactility kind of comes in for me.
And Kim, maybe please address the geometric shaped canvases,
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's been a newer thing the last year or so, is that I've been building these triangle and other shaped canvases, and I have a couple of those in this show. And that's been a really fun experiment and challenge, and I apologize for the train that's blowing in the background. Yeah, so I think like working that way kind of allows me to think of the paintings as an object rather as just a painting. It transforms it into kind of a different format, and it makes it feel more sculptural, and I think you just look at it through a different lens. So that's definitely I think was successful in this show, and definitely something that I'm trying to experiment with more in the future.
Yeah, I think your work, the shaped canvases and the way they're hanging at angles when you come into the gallery are so dramatic and dynamic looking that they really activate the space together.
Thank you. I think it just changes the format and allows you to think about it in a different way.
Kim, can you share a quick image of your install shot?
Oh yeah, I have to pull something up, but I can do that.
Well, that's all right. And again, I know in person, some of you have seen these, they really range from a lush, like that red fades so beautifully. And then the, pink and green fabric goes deep. Then there's kind of stuccoed wall texture, they're really quite something in person. Painters in the crowd, you can recognize glazes and impastos and sort of surface, just the love of the surface there.
Yeah, so these are some install shots, and so you can see the triangles hanging at different angles, and even like the square canvases that I think you can see on the ends here have kind of been designed to hang from any direction also. So I think that's been kind of fun, and the triangles can certainly be pivoted to benefit however they're hanging in whatever space they're in. So yeah, I don't know if that's quite related to.
That's great. I think people get a whole shot there, which, you know, go to the top one. Yeah, that shot there is kind of what Peggy's saying. When you walk in, you're visually just carried away, you know, and beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
The surface and the depth. Great. Okay. Somebody else want to share how important the sense of touch is to your work? Oh, what's that? Whose is that?
I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, that's Sarah.
Oh yeah, you know what? I was just getting a.
There we go. Nice.
Yeah, I had to get my PowerPoint, and it wasn't on. Sorry about that.
Okay. Sarah, are you going to go now?
Yeah, sorry
Oh,
about that. I just
okay.
have to
Just
shut
make
off my
sure.
sound. Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not double.
Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I just put a couple of slides together. So I don't know why it's so, that echo is going on.
If you have two systems going, the volume has to be shut down on one.
Okay. Okay, I just
That's
left that meeting. Okay, so the texture is really important for me with paintings, and they tend to be pretty thick. So that's like a really important factor. And that's something that I kind of want to pursue a little bit more, is just, you know, doing more abstract work that is very, very textural. So like this one's 4x6, it's tiny, but it got a lot of paint on it. But yeah, I would say texture is like a big part of it. And so our shows were not really put together. Like mine was separate from theirs, but it kind of worked out really well because their work is so textural. So,
yeah. I feel like your you know, bordering into complete abstraction is so like, it's kind of seductive in that you just like it almost is completely abstract, but then you still can go back to the subject matter. And so it's kind of like you want to see where you can take it. You know, I'm anxious to see where it goes.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I have been doing some stuff in the studio that's like completely abstract, but I haven't really showed anybody yet. So anyways, kind of look forward to doing that
next time.
Yeah. And yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Carmen?
Sorry, Sarah, that I interrupt you.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I'm a mess with Zoom. Yeah, the touch sense in my work is definitely like one of the main dimensions, I think. Because when I take pictures of my work, I always feel that it doesn't make like justice, like what I'm seeing like in real and then in the picture. Most of the texture, I think that they get lost when you photograph the pieces. So, but yeah, for me, it's like I'm like using my whole body when I'm working, like because I have all the shit like in front of me in the wall or in my body, like embroidering, and with my kid around, so he's also like pulling the threads. Because I'm not using hoops, the threads are not like super tense, they make like some waves. So it's like the texture from the material and also the texture that is like coming when the piece is like going being finished. And also because now I'm using pillows, of course the pillows like get like folded, and like, yeah, as you see, like you can see the piece for different sides. So for me, the tactile thing is super important, and I was so glad to show you
so
in
just
the
scroll
gallery
back on
like
Monday.
all the pieces look like real.
All right. Okay. No, that's about it. That's all.
You know what? I just lost my screen. I
muted.
don't know what happened to it.
Bye.
It likes to
Thanks,
do
sir.
that.
Yeah,
Those
well,
screens, they go away.
yeah, I printed something so I'd have my questions, and then I lost, and I don't know what. Join a meeting, but I'm the host of the meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how to get back.
You're in the meeting.
The Zoom
You see
icon.
me, but I can't see the
Click on the
screen,
icon, the Zoom icon.
the Zoom icon.
Yeah, the little blue thing at the bottom.
Oh,
That's
the
how you
little
get back
message
in.
thing. Okay. Hmm.
Did you get your questions, Peggy?
I got my questions, so I guess I can just.
Well,
Yeah.
I have them if you don't, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, we have to hear from Charity.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
like to answer that one too.
Okay.
So
Are you going to share your screen, Charity?
can you, I wasn't prepared
No,
to.
that's fine. I can show these images if you don't mind.
Oh, there you came back. Yay. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm always using found objects, and I think, it's always intuitive for me, which objects I choose when I'm out at a thrift store or antique shop or rummage sale or whatever. But I think that something about the texture is always drawing me to whatever I'm choosing. And, I like this one's sideways, by the way.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
And
Sorry.
yeah. Oh, and then one is upside down. The next one's that's upside down. But,
Sorry.
They weren't that way when I created it, but
I don't know. Anyway, imagine that the other one with weight.
blame it
hanging.
on Zoom.
Yeah, and I don't think I can turn it because it's a PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. Anyway, I like the texture to almost give you information about how the object was built that I'm using. If it's a textile, I tend to choose things with heavier weaves or stitching just because it gives you a lot of information just to think about, how things are made and, what goes into them.
Sorry. Learning here. That one's right side up, right? Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah, intersection, that one's fine. The next one, though, for some reason now is upside down.
Oh, brother. Sorry. Okay. I think they all, there you go.
Mhm. Beautiful.
Yes, I always like a texture that can show a little bit of history as well. Like, gives the object the.
God. Sorry. But it's a PDF. I don't know how to work it. If it was a PowerPoint, I could feel.
I don't know if we can change it at this point, but.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go on.
Yes, anyway, texture is really important to me, but I think it kind of adds to the history of the object or the clue into how the object was built or manufactured or even handmade. I think a good texture really can draw you into a work.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were noticing, we had a little critique session with Charity earlier in the show, that even the wrinkles, you know, in the fabric of the shirts, and that she chooses to either leave as is, you know, that adds something to the work you're looking at, you know. When you have such a minimal amount of elements in it, then every little thing.
Yeah, every bump counts.
Yeah. Mhm.
Do you stretch those like on wood or something? Or do you glue them onto wood?
It's just mounted onto like a fiberboard, these framed ones.
Okay, so on to the next question. The works that are in this show are created from a range of materials, and maybe you can talk a little bit about why you
Oh.
work with the chosen materials. Maybe Charity, you can follow that up.
Yeah, I would say it basically starts with an obsession. I don't know, I just can't help myself but think about seams and texture. And even if I'm on a crowded bus or something, I'm literally looking at how everyone's garment is put together.
And a piece like this, Charity, talk about beginning to end in the process of this.
This one, yeah, I always start formally. When I begin, I'm just thinking about shape, color, texture, line, shadows, anything that has to do with just the formal aspects. And so I started with the sheet, and just pinning it on the wall in various ways. I liked the shape of that, and then I noticed that this pulley was sitting in my studio. It's a similar color. And just by sitting and staring at it and thinking just formally, things start to come together. And then I think afterwards, a story can develop of context. This is actually a clothesline and a pulley and a sheet, which actually do go together in the real world. People might have a connection with that. But to begin with, I always start just with the formal elements.
I'm curious, Charity, how do you collect your pieces? Like, do you use it and then you save it for art, or someone give it to you?
You mean the objects that I'm using?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just make trips to thrift stores and antique shops and estate sales, and just stroll through and look for things that, for some intuitive reason, have some appeal. And then I'll just have a pile of them in the studio and start cutting or arranging things. I don't know. One object will somehow seem related to another object, and I'll start working with them together, and just looking for relationships between things, or the space that something takes up.
Cool.
What about you, Carmen? How do you choose your materials?
Actually, I don't choose my materials.
They come
to me. I have like kind of an obsession, probably a bad one, with the climate change. It scares me like a lot. So the possibility to make art with upcycling materials is like, I love the idea. And I feel like even if it's like a really tiny thing, I feel that I'm doing something to, I don't know, make better this world, or saving time for the earth, whatever. So I started working with sheets and old clothes a couple of years ago, but after the lockdown in March, I was like looking for new challenges at home, and I found like an old pillow that we were not using. So I start, who is actually Elena, the blue one, the one of, I don't know. It's
The
there.
blue one.
I don't know if they're all, I don't think
That
we
one,
put them
yeah.
every single
Got
one.
it.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
but that one is the first one.
Ah,
So I start like embroidering the pillow just for fun. I mean, I have in mind the Sola show, but I was like playing.
mhm.
And then I discovered that embroidery in the pillows was like, I love the results, the challenge also, because every pillow is different. So I start asking to my neighbors in the UCLA village, but also in By Nothing Facebook group about pillows that the people is not using more. So my neighbors started texting me like, hey, I'm gonna throw this pillow, so do you want it? So I start working with the sheets and the pillows that my neighbors give it to me. So I don't really choose the pillows. I receive it and then I try to think what I'm gonna do with that. So some ones are really with a lot of stuff inside, so it's really hard to embroider them. So I figured it out with another option. So I cut it, I open it. Some are really dirty, others are almost new. So yeah, I try to work with the materials that, I mean, I have my own thread, so I choose the colors and that part is mine. But the sheets, the color of the sheets, the shape of the pillows, all that stuff is, I receive what my neighbors give to me.
Nice. That's good to know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as the painters, I can't remember. Is Kim painting with acrylic?
No,
No, oil?
Yeah.
Okay, and Sarah also oil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just hooked on oils.
yeah. So Kim, have you always worked with oils?
Yeah, I have. I mean, when I guess I learned to paint with acrylics because that's all they'll give you in high school. But I think at some point my mom, hi mom, she's here, gave me an oil paint set, and I really haven't looked back since. I mean, I've worked in other mediums. I've worked in acrylic and gouache and all that, and even like other mediums entirely, like ceramics or woodworking, but nothing has hooked me quite like oil paint has, and especially with the tactility that we're talking about, you can really build up the paint and the colors in a really like rich and satisfying way. So this is definitely my obsession for sure.
One thing I was wanting to ask you is, firstly, did you ever take scene painting, like set painting?
I've never done that, although I have worked in a couple of fabrication shops where I've worked with scene painters and been around that environment a lot. So I think it's definitely influenced me consciously or not.
Yeah, and then the other question is, do you like do you have did you make that fabric up, invent it, or did you? You did?
So it's both. I don't work with any like direct references, although sometimes with the fabric, I'll like throw a sheet on the ground just as a reference for folds.
Oh, for the folds and stuff.
Yeah, so the pattern is entirely made up, and the squares are kind of like a way to define the space a little bit more. But yeah, for the most part, it's imagined, but I will use a reference just to get the initial form onto the canvas.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then do you usually start with like an overall underpainting, or?
No, I work really intuitively. So I'll usually like mock up a composition in paint on the canvas and kind of fill it in. And my colors are all fairly distinct. So I'll pin something as wood grain or concrete or whatnot and kind of fill it in as I go. So I don't work with underpainting so much.
Yeah. And I think in this series, Kim, am I wrong? The red, pink, salmon becomes a more, in proportion to all of your compositions, it occupies a lot of space to rest. I see that.
Yeah.
they're like bigger negative spaces or positive spaces. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's not referencing any one thing in particular. It's more of a tool just to work to create the space and push it back or forward. And I just like work that kind of demands your attention, and that's certainly a color that demands your attention. So
it does.
Yeah, it's so strong and bold, and yet it is, you know, does allow you to rest at the same time, which is kind of conflicting, you know.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Sarah, what about you with your oil paints? Have you always worked with oils, or
Pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've worked with them for a long time, since the 80s, late 80s.
And it's,
so yeah, you get hooked.
Yeah, because of the way, the thickness, and
and then they just dry, so they dry differently than acrylics. And I just like, I love some acrylic paintings, but I just prefer. And then the other thing is that I do most of the time work outdoors. So if you have acrylic paint outdoors, it just dries.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah,
it ever have trouble with like dust or dirt getting into your wet paintings?
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Ash and like when I paint jacarandas, there's blossoms, but a lot of times you can just pick those out later. Unfortunately, jacaranda blossoms dry brown, real ugly. So
they come down so beautifully.
Thanks.
Say, Sarah, on these more limited palette ones, was that the time of day, or was it the deliberate, I'm going to use these colors today kind of?
Sometimes it was like you can tell that one's more limited palette. Sometimes it's like there's just too much to deal with to have an unlimited palette. And then if it's an unlimited palette, it's just like, I have to have that color, you know, that's just like,
yeah,
that whatever color. But yeah, so sometimes like the one that was in Kennehawn Park that I showed earlier, that looks like, it looks like fire or something.
Yeah,
that one, I just had a really short time, and I just had to get out there and just do it, you know, so I couldn't muck around with like a bunch of.
And then most of these are one session paintings, correct? You're not going back 2 or 3 times, or are you?
They're mostly one.
Yeah.
But they might be like 5 hours.
Sure, of course. But in the spirit of traditional plein air, you're there, and then it's done.
Yeah. But a couple of them I did do in the studio. And yeah, but not that many. So
yeah.
Okay. So so the next question is about formal elements, and we've kind of already talked a bit about it. I notice yours deals a lot with shape, you know, these repetition of shape. Is that pretty important to you in your
yeah, definitely. And just rhythm and repetition, and sort of like getting into the gesture of a landscape. So like the gesture of a landscape, and then the repetition of the shapes, and just this kind of doing something fast, working fast.
Okay. So as far as inspiration for the work, does anyone want to speak about, you know, what really is, you know, what made you go into this body of work and really develop it? What keeps you working on the same kind of direction? You know, what keeps you going on that? For anybody?
I'll talk. So my work is very much inspired by my memories of surroundings and environment, but this series in particular was pretty directly inspired by the quarantine and the pandemic, because the sunset and gradient motifs are definitely like an ode to Los Angeles and the color palette of LA. and then the like wood grain and concrete areas do like block it out, especially in this painting. So you're kind of looking through a window, and the whole series in this painting as well is called Inside Out. And so I was kind of just thinking about how we're all like trapped right now in these like comfy prisons of our own making. And so to have like, you know, all of these textures and surfaces like wood and concrete and blankets and curtains surrounding you while you're kind of looking outside and thinking about the outside world that you're not really able to interact with. So my work is generally like not very much about one particular thing, and it's more of a meditation, but this series was more directly inspired by what we're all kind of going through right now.
Nice. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, this like, are you, you know, relaxed, curled up in a, you know, blanket reading and having tea, or are we fearful that the fire is, you know, the world ending? You know, it's kind of
all of it, yeah. And then you have all those feelings at the same time, I think, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, this one is really like a, you know, like a visual DNA, right, of your memories and your current status, and you know, maybe an old bedroom you had. Yeah, I think it's great.
Thanks.
For me, I've basically been doing the same thing for a long time, but I just love like 1920s and 30s buildings. And I love, you know, neighborhoods. And I just feel like everything's always like changing. So I feel like if I can get out there and paint it, then at least it keeps something. So.
There's never a shortage of that.
No.
Everything's disappearing.
No. So anyways, yeah, there isn't. And then even, you know, just like trees, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything's always changing. So I feel like, well, I'll get my painting and, you know, that'll be that. And then I do something else.
Okay.
Well, for me, it really comes down to fabric. I use a lot of other household items now, or, you know, other kinds of tools and things in my work, but there's always been a focus on fabric. And I find that the used fabric just, well, I mean, textiles are a language that we use to express ourselves and on our bodies and in our homes. And I think that it seems to me like some of that is left when you have a used item. And so I've always been fascinated with, like, you know, finding textiles that feel like they have a history and trying to contain that somehow in the work that I'm making. And then also just combining with minimalism. I mean, you can't have a good piece of art unless the composition is good. And so that just, I just became fascinated with minimalism because that's all it is.
Is the limited palette of colors you're using a theme you've used for a while, or for this body of work?
I'd say it's probably about 7 or 8 years. I've focused down on less and less color. I used to use a lot of color, but yeah, it's just that exploration of, like, how can I say something with less? How can I say something with less?
Where's glass thermometers in these?
There's one glass thermometer.
Holding up the bottom thing.
It's protruding from the wall. Yeah, this picture, it doesn't have the shadow lines on it, unfortunately, but it is 3-dimensional coming out from the wall, and the glass thermometer is just wedged in there.
Right.
Great. Okay. Carmen, I guess the inspiration behind your work?
Yeah, definitely. But it's hard to express in English. But yeah, I think that for me, I have like 2 motors. One is like to reappropriate the embroidery like process, like that I learned when I was a kid at school. So like it's like messing with embroidery. I remember when I was at school that the teacher, it was like, you have to follow the pattern, and you are doing wrong, and this color and this other one doesn't combine. So for me, my work now is like, I'm like messing with the things that my teacher at school told me. Like, I'm not doing what they told me, but so it's like a challenge. It's like a kind of key challenge, like to bother the teacher. But also for me, it's the way that to express my freedom now, because I'm in a country that is not mine, in a language that is not mine, and also like a culture with a kid, like I feel like kind of trapped. I mean, I'm happy with my life, but my art is the way that I can like express and be like more rebel maybe. So it's not just like messing with my teacher, it's also like pushing the boundaries of the embroidery and the support. So working now on pillows and sheets, and my current work is not at Sola now, it's like pushing further also the possibilities of the embroidery. And so the size for me is really big. I want to go bigger, to be like more three-dimensional. So it's like kind of the freedom feeling that who inspired me now a lot.
And Carmen, this one is the most sort of freestanding and a little different. Can you explain this one a little bit, please?
Sure. Like I'll tell you before, I got the pillows that my neighbors give it to me, and I received this one who has like the squares wearing the like sew in the pillow. And I was trying to figure out how embroider the pillow, but the stuff I didn't like it, so the embroider didn't really work. So I started cutting like the squares in the pillow, and then I found that as you can see, like the pillow is stuffed with two different like foam and stuffing. So for me it was like, oh, I'm doing kind of biology thing. Like I want to show the people what is inside their pillows.
A dissection.
Yeah. So I just cut it, the squares that the pillow already had, and then I put like wire like around so the pillow can stand up by itself. But yeah, it was like a kind of scientific experimentation with that pillow and specifically. But that I told you is like each pillow is so different, like the shade, the material. So even if I try to make like a series, I think that you can see like each pillow like a completely different piece of art. And yeah,
this one's my favorite from the show.
Yeah,
it's really
and
interesting.
When I was like working on that one, I was thinking like, oh, maybe you can see through the pillow. So if you are in my corner of the show, you can see like Kim's paint through the pillow, or in the different way, like so behind being Kim's corner and see mine. So I don't know, it's kind of a play.
Transparent.
Yeah, it creates some really cool views.
Well, I have to say with the pillows, they go to that, on the sort of psychological romantic side, the personal dreams we have, the sleepless nights we have. You'd bring up all these kind of intimate things too about our personal space and our own lives. And then this one kind of takes the bedroom and blows it up, but
with the clothes on the side. I love the clothes.
Yeah. The pillow thing's really kind of personal, but I guess, I don't know, does everybody relate to that? Because it's so like
no, that's absolutely true. And there's a little, Tracy Emin with, that bed.
Oh yeah. Anyway, just my thought. So I think the bigger screen's better, right? So,
yeah.
Although her bed was dirtier.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're about running out of time, so I'll just ask the last question, and it kind of incorporates Hagop's interest too.
Thank you.
Oh, so do you interact with a community of other artists whose work influences or supports your art practice? And especially, how did you, if you do, how did you do that during the COVID? You know, it's not like it's over. It's like, how have you transformed that, you know, being influenced or interacting with other artists during this time?
Well, I'll start. So I'm pretty lucky in that my studio space stayed open throughout all of this. So I've been able to come in and work. And I work at Keystone Art Space, and it's a really lovely community of about, yeah, it's so nice, about 50 or more of us. And we have shows and open studios when things are normal. And so in regular times, it's a really like vibrant community. Although these days I'm kind of just shut in here with my hand sanitizer. But beyond that, as Hagop and I both mentioned, we're in a collective together called Museum Adjacent. And there's about 10 of us, and we've throughout the pandemic been organizing a few like guerrilla style art shows virtually or outside, and been connecting on Zoom every couple of weeks to kind of keep the conversation going. And so that's been like really gratifying and a really nice way to stay involved and not feel like the art world has shut down the last 6 months. So yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else.
For me, it's really, I mean, my art community is mostly like through social medias, because I work at home with my toddler around. So the art, like, share my artist process, connect with other artists and galleries and everything through social medias, for me is really important. Like so that was before COVID, so it didn't change like that much after COVID started. So it just go deeper maybe, because all the artists start feeling like me. I'm trapped here. So yeah.
I can relate to that. I actually have 3 children, and my studio's in the house. And so, you know, getting time to be alone in there is really special to me. You know, then I have to work. I always have to work to then go out and connect with other artists afterwards. And so I used to take a class at Otis every week. That's canceled now, but Sola Gallery has been a great opportunity for me to just try to keep that up. And yeah, I guess I've been probably talking to people on the phone, or, you know, just other kinds of technology to stay in touch with artists and talk about making things. But yeah, it's not a huge difference for me as far as the actual making, because, you know, I'm at home all the time anyway. So.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, if we want, anyone else have any more comments?
I just want to say I'm here tonight because I'm a collector of Kim's work. I have, I think, 4 paintings. Maybe I forgot one. Yes, they've gone up in price, and that's a good thing for Kim. So one is still in my away from home office. 2 are in my bedroom now, and one I brought home from the away from home office, and it's in a front room that I kind of reclaimed for myself after the divorce. So it's really been fascinating to see the other works tonight. Of course, everything I see of Kim's, I'm like, yes. but I like and appreciate everything else I've seen tonight too. I really appreciated this call.
Great.
Thanks so much, Sarah. That's so nice
to have you.
Thanks. And yes, one of the differences in collecting since COVID is you see the work differently. You're in a different space. You have kind of different needs and expectations of it. I take almost a daily selfie, and usually I have a painting in the background. And at first I hated doing them at home instead of the office because the lighting is so different, but then I realized at home I can do a full body selfie. I got some floor length mirrors, and that's a whole new dimension for me. So, so that's kind of where I'm going. Yeah.
Okay.
It was, Peggy, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
it was really nice to see the work in person, though. It
Yeah.
was so different.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was after so long trapped inside, it was really nice to hang it on a real wall.
It was. It
It was.
was. It really was.
Yeah, and even if we can't have big crowds coming to openings and everything, I still think it's worth it. And it's worth it to me when I see the show go up. I'm sad that I can't have a big reception, and I'm sad that some people are still afraid to, well, I shouldn't say afraid. Everybody's respectful of, but it's beautiful to see, and we really appreciate everyone's patience. And this show was postponed how many months? Maybe 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like, what's the future going to be? And nobody knew. And so anyway.
Well, the technology that we have now, it's not what it will be in the future, but it's light years from what it was even probably 5 years ago. Right. Yeah. To be able to see anything, to see the colors, to see the shapes, perspective, all those things. And I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah. Yep. So, so anyone else or anybody have anything new happening that
Well, and if there are questions from the audience, I mean, you could probably just say them now. We don't have to type into a chat.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you. This has been great. It is what keeps art alive, even though we're technologically, a lot of us are teachers teaching this way, or it warms my heart. I'm seeing these names: Stephanie, Betty, Stacy Wexler. I haven't seen some of them in a while, so
I know
it's working.
Yeah. They didn't have to drive across town, right?
Here's an interesting thing. This could be a long question to answer, but I mean, psychologically, like, has your audience changed, right? I mean, because when we're in our space, we make the stuff, you got to be grounded to what you want to do. But sometimes there's that self-conscious thing of like, who's going to see it? Has that changed any of your practices through COVID? Maybe not, because we're all artists and we do
not
it
really.
I don't know. I mean, because you got to make it for the moment, right? And then hope it. But that's the thing. You guys brought a lot to those walls in that space that changed everyone's perception of color, texture, memory, nuance, and that's pretty amazing, right? So, what else? Any questions? Come on, you quiet ones out there. Wait, I forgot class is over at 4, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Well.
No, I'm kidding. I don't. We're here. Whatever.
So we just want to make sure, if you have the opportunity, the show is up for one more week. Next week, it's over on the 31st.
And you'll be open tomorrow?
And we'll be open tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Saturday. And then we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 11 to 4. So.
Yeah.
What's the next show, Peggy?
The next show is it's a membership show. It's the critique group, the creative practice artists. So that one's fun. And so it'll be a group show of kind of an eclectic mix of work. And then we're having a Small Works fundraiser in December, which we're doing an open call for work that's 12 inches square or less.
Oh, good.
If anybody wants to participate, we're doing an open call. So it's just small work, and it's to submit in support of SOLA, but the artist can take a percentage as well. So we're not expecting artists to just donate 100%. Unless they want to. Yeah. So check in with us if you're interested in that.
I just want to say thank you to Hagop for doing this, and to Peggy for hosting the event too. It's been really fun.
Wow, my pleasure. Great.
Yeah.
Vanessa's here. I haven't seen Vanessa in Madrid. Wow, this is great. No, thank you. I mean, this is our social, what else you can do on a Friday afternoon? This is
Yeah, that's right. And
better than grading midterms. I mean,
That's right. It's good to see you, Hagop, and everybody that came to participate and listen. it's really warms my heart to have this nice turnout. So thank you to
Well,
everyone.
and thanks to Ben too. Ben does build. Ben, hey Ben, if you're there, do you hear me?
Ben, come say hi.
We love Ben. Ben's ask, my man.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I did my best. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna get the accordion and play you a song.
You play us out.
Yeah, I don't think we have Festivus this year.
Festivus is coming.
It's gonna be like this. Everyone has a pole and they're just singing.
Yeah, a pole with a mask on it. That's instead of a flag, we'll have a mask.
Ben, you're gonna moderate next time.
Okay, good to see you guys.
All right, thanks, Ben.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Peggy,
Okay.
is that a wrap? Was that a success?
Yeah, that was good. You ended it with a laugh.
No, but I mean, these things are sometimes not as populated. That was great. I think we did a nice thing here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Keep
All
making
right.
good work. Stay
Bye.
healthy.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next
Bye.
time.
Take care.
Bye, Stacy.